Welcome to the Hoof and Fang podcast. I'm Kirt Graves.
And I'm Maz Maddox.
How is your week going so far?
It is not as crazy as last week.
Woo woo!
Thank God. It's been a lot more chill.
Yeah, you can't have two of those in a row.
No. So luckily it's been just like nice. I even was able to get a little bit of writing done on Monday, which was kind of nice.
Unthinkable.
I know, right? Like, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was able to like get the day job to just chill out.
Mm-hmm.
And I took like my lunch break and just worked on some stuff. So that was nice and like zen.
Nice.
So, but yeah, it's been
Your
okay.
lunch break.
Yeah, wink. That's what I have to say in case anyone ever tracks me down.
Yeah.
But yes, lunch break.
Yes.
What about you? Has your week been a lot more chill?
No.
No?
Well, I mean, it's not bad. It's not like yours. It's not chaotic like your week was last week. It's
Fair.
just very busy.
Yeah.
Between regular work, podcast work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to launch another podcast now.
Really?
Yeah, for narrators.
Nice.
So,
Because why not add another
You know
podcast to your list?
it really did seem like a good idea at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But they spend so long in development that by the time you're doing two of them at the same time, it's like, oh,
Great.
wow, yeah. Cool.
This is
Two
what I
at the
wanted.
same time. So yeah, I've just been busy, and then I'm taking a class this month, just like a narrator open studio class, which has been good for me, but that's a night of my week then that is no longer available for all the other things that I do. And yeah, it's a very, very busy January, followed by a very not busy February and March. So
that's good, yeah? So you'll be able to maybe...
No, I would like it to be like... somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
At all times.
So it's going from like crazy busy to like just like a pitfall kind of thing? Okay, yeah, that's not good.
So if you're out there and you were ever wondering, like, I wonder if Kirt Graves would narrate for me, now's a really good time to ask, guys.
The books are open.
We have openings galore.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah, now's your chance.
Yeah, for real.
You should put like a reel on Instagram or something and just be like, hey, like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's been so long since I've had that that need to like advertise myself that like, I definitely got out of the habit.
Yeah, for sure.
And so yeah, I mean, I've been putting out feelers in other ways as well, just shy of the public announcement of somebody please hire me, but I guess that's where we're at now.
I was about to say, I mean, you just told a lot of people.
Somebody please hire me. You know, tell your friends.
Got to pay them bills. People. Yeah.
Kirt is available. So.
Nice.
Yeah. And last week I got some fun information that I forgot to share, which is why I actually put it in the outline this week.
Nice.
Because I was like, damn it. But the Indie Ink Awards, which are happening, I think, for their second year this year, have announced their finalists, at least to the people who have made the finals.
Sweet.
And so I found out that two of the books I worked on this year are finalists for the Indie Ink Awards audiobook narration category.
Yay, that's awesome.
Which is really exciting and fun.
Yeah.
And one of them is our friend of the pod, Craig Montgomery, for A Circle of Stars.
Oh, great. I love that.
So that's really cool.
Very cool.
And then the other one is M.A. Wardell's Mistletoe and Mishigas with Mark Sanderlin. So the two of us are nominated there as well. So
that's
I'm
awesome.
competing against myself.
Hey, man, that's awesome.
And my friend Lindsay, who's also a finalist, which is fun.
That's cool.
And some other people who, because they haven't been announced publicly yet. So unless you catch it on social media when the authors are like, hey, this happened, because they got notified, but
gotcha.
There's not like a list out there yet. But,
okay, cool.
But yeah, so that's very exciting and fun.
Yeah, I'll need to, do you know when the list goes up? Because I'm curious as to who.
I do not.
Okay. I'll have to poke around because I'm curious if, like, who got what and how it goes. Like,
yeah.
It's
and I mean, and there's many other categories that both of those books got nominated in other categories. But like, obviously the one that matters to me is the audiobook narration one.
Exactly. Yeah, of course. I mean,
that's the category that matters to me.
Listen, I'm the asshole that like anytime that there's like MM romance like nominations and stuff, I always just search for my name first before I do anything. Because I'm always like, am I on here? No. Yeah. Okay. Well, where are my friends? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, But yeah, no, that's always priority one.
Yeah.
So I'm like, math? Yes? No? Okay.
Yeah.
I actually found out that somebody messaged me saying that one of my books was nominated for like best of 2023 for the Paranormal Romance Guild. And I was like,
fun.
oh, cool, right? So I was like, probably Gardens and Ghosts because dinosaurs. And so I was like, I kept scrolling and I kept looking for Gardens and Ghosts because that's where my brain was. And I didn't see it. So I was like, oh, I guess I rolled right past it. So I looked up with my name and it was for Bullets and Butterflies, which has 0 paranormal stuff in it. So I was like, what? I'm totally fucking confused. But apparently they have like a contemporary thing. And I was like, why would a paranormal romance or a paranormal guild have a contemporary category? Like it seems
for all the things of your work to be nominated for.
Exactly.
The one you've done.
Yeah.
That has no
None.
sci-fi or fantasy in it whatsoever.
Yeah, it's just assassins, like no shifters or anything. And I was like, if you would have given me 5 guesses, I never would have guessed that book.
Right.
It was just like, I'm happy.
I could have given you 14 guesses and you still wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, exactly. I'd have been like, that's all of my books. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, because I always forget about it, which makes me feel like a jerk. Because I actually really like that story. But
books at the Paranormal Guild is going to nominate, that would be the last one you would guess.
I'd be like, the one with none of that? Great.
Yeah. See, and we've talked about it before. Awards often, they don't mean what we want them to mean, but they're good marketing and it's fun to talk about. So.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm always very happy and thankful and I celebrate when it happens and stuff. But yeah, that one was just like,
there's always more going on behind the scenes than just quality.
Exactly.
If awards could actually judge quality, it would be a different thing, but there's no way to do that because it's a subjective. There's humans behind it. It's imperfect and sometimes just strange.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Just strange. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Our January audiobook, which is uploading to BookFunnel as we speak.
Exciting.
Is 3 Meant to Be by M.N. Bennett. It is out today.
Yay!
So I did a weird thing right there where I talked about like how it's uploading as we speak in real time.
Yeah.
But it's out today in podcast time.
Ooh.
Both things are true.
That's crazy.
Time is relative. So yeah, the day this episode comes out, it is available. Our Patreon dear listeners have already gotten it in their BookFunnel account. If you are a dear reader of our Patreon, you have a 40% discount waiting for you at the online store, so you can buy it. And if you're not either of those things, why?
Yeah.
And also, you can just go buy it in our online store, available today.
Yep.
We hope you enjoy it. Let us know what you think. We are always looking for feedback. And this one is one that our listeners told us they wanted.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, all of them were amazing books to pick from. So I'm not like dismissing the other ones, but this one was a lot of fun. Yeah. Like I really enjoyed listening to it, especially at the end when like all the shenanigans are happening. I was like, dude, this book is a thrill ride. I really liked it. So I'm really hoping that people like vibe with it as much as I have because I want us to see it. Like I want to do the other ones. So I'm like, come on, y'all, go buy the book. I'm excited.
And also, it's just fun to talk to people about books you enjoyed.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah. So go check it out. That's definitely something we hope you enjoy, and we want to hear about your enjoyment.
Yeah.
Speaking of things we enjoy, it's been a while since we just talked about some things that are making us happy.
Yeah.
In the world of media.
Yeah.
Books, television shows,
just
film. So I thought today we could just chat about some things that are making us happy.
I think that's a good time for that. There's a lot of doom and gloom happening. So this is a nice little levity.
Yeah. So what's something that's making you happy lately?
Man, I got back into, it's not books, TV shows, or film, but I got back into playing Cult of the Lamb. Have I ever told you about that game?
No.
Okay. It is silly and really fun. It is like basically you're a little lamb and you're a cult leader and you have to like organize your little cute animal cult. So all your little followers are like anthropomorphic animals and they're like little bears and bees and elephants and stuff. And you have to go rescue them from a dungeon where you beat up demons and stuff and you bring them back to your cult. You indoctrinate them with whatever tenets you decide to believe in. I'm a really nice cult. So like I grow vegetables and everyone's happy, but you can be like super evil and eat people and be gnarly and bad. But I always do like happy, ridiculous cults. So I have like a little farm. And so like, that's what I've been doing after work, especially after like really stressful days. I go and manage my cult and grow my garden and go beat up demons. So that's how I've been spending my evenings. And it's so lovely. Your face is great.
It's just that, one, you're a human adult, right?
Yes, okay. I am.
And other human adults enjoy this.
Yeah.
In fact, so many that a team of human adults came together to write and design and program this game.
Yeah. It's very fun.
Which sounds so dumb.
I know. It sounds really silly, but it's like if you have ever played any type of like farming simulator kind of thing or like any type of action beat 'em up games, it's a good merger of both of those. So if you're feeling like you need to punch something in the face, you can go into the dungeon and okay. Otherwise, if you're like, I don't want to punch something in the face, I just want to like farm stuff and just make sure my little animal people are happy. It's just nice and chill. So it can kind of go either way.
Wow.
Yeah.
I learn new things every day.
Yeah.
But honestly,
I know it's so not your cup of tea at all, but like, man, it's been a nice little breath. Because I've also played this game before, so I like restarted from scratch, and I'm like, I don't really care if it goes wrong because I already know what happens. So I'm like, if some like my crops don't work, I don't care. So it's just real low stakes for me.
I get that.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the things that I'm going to talk about is also sort of like that for me. Something I have consumed before, and for some reason I was just like, now's the time to do a rewatch.
Yeah.
And it's the series Ugly Betty.
I've never seen that.
So, I mean, it's based on like a telenovela.
Okay.
So it's very campy, very soapy.
Yeah.
It was sort of like the emergence of America Ferrera as like a star.
Yeah. Okay.
And like, she's fantastic. In fact, she was nominated for an Oscar today.
I love that. That's awesome.
I do too. I was like, I feel like I helped because I've been rewatching Ugly Betty on Netflix, and that put her in the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Of my life. But anyways, I don't get to vote for the Oscars, but so yeah, and this is a thing that I started doing during the pandemic when like my brain just couldn't handle new things.
Yeah.
I needed the comfy, warm blanket of something I knew what to expect. And if something I didn't like happened, I could just like skip it.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big fan of doing that. I rewatch The Office. You've seen me watch it a ton. That's my like during comfort
lunch breaks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is. It's comfort TV watching. I used to not be able to do things like that because if I knew the ending, I was like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Consume new things. You already know that story. But again, during the pandemic, I think my brain was just like, it needs to be soft. Needs to be cozy.
Yeah,
you know? And
for
like,
sure.
So this is one of those that's like, I watched it when it first came out. I watched the original run. I haven't done a rewatch since. So now is a good time to just watch a campy, bright, colorful show. Yeah. And I'm enjoying it.
The second rewatch is always like my favorite. You know what I mean? Because like when you hit like 5 times watching it, I get to the point where I'm like, I don't know if I'm super attached to this anymore. But like second or third time rewatching a series that you really, really like, it's just perfect. Because you're like, I don't super remember everything. So every once in a while I'm like, oh, I forgot how funny that was or whatever. But yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything new lately that you're like, oh, hell yeah, I really like that? Like any new shows?
Have started watching The Floor.
The Floor?
On Fox.
Okay.
Rob Lowe hosts. It's a new game show. It's like trivia and stuff.
Yeah.
Very low stakes.
Nice.
And so that's also enjoyable. Plus it's like a series of like battles like between 2 people, which means the episodes sort of naturally break up into like 8 different segments.
Yeah.
You can just watch a battle and then like if I'm done with my breakfast and it's time to get in the booth, I can just stop.
Nice.
You know, because otherwise I have a hard time sometimes if I'm watching like a 45-minute long TV show and I finish what I'm like eating lunch or eating breakfast and there's still like 30 minutes left in the show. I was like, well, I'll finish this episode. And then that 30 minutes is gone.
Oh, for sure.
So I do enjoy any YouTube and or television series that is like broken up into small pieces that like I can just stop.
That sounds fun.
You know, every 10 minutes or so.
Yeah. I think so at the house, we call those like popcorn shows or whatever, or like potato chip shows or something, whereas like I could just have a couple minutes and then move on. Yeah. So it's more like a snack instead of a full meal. But yeah, no, I need a good like bite-sized show to get into because lately the stuff that I've been binging have been like 40, 55-minute long kind of things. I'm like, that eats up so much time because I'm just like you. If I've already committed that much time into it, I want to finish the episode or whatever. So yeah, I feel you.
Otherwise, you got to expend mental energy later trying to remember what was going on.
I don't typically remember. That shit's out of my brain like immediately. Yeah. So
anything. So what else is making you happy?
We watched, I don't know if it made me happy, but it was it was stupid enough to where I went ahead and watched the entire season. Okay. But there is a TV series based off of Chucky, like the doll, the little evil doll. And it was stupid. It was stupid. But Chucky was actually very delightful the entire time. Like they got the original voice actor back and stuff. And I appreciate so much that this guy just leaned into the role. Like, cause he's been doing it since the 80s. So you'd think he'd be like phoning it in. This dude was having a great time.
I'm sure those paychecks.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I found out like his daughter's one of the actors in it and stuff. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Right. So like that I really enjoyed, and I enjoyed like his performance, but the rest of it was just garbage. Yeah. But at least for that, I was like, this is fun. Cause like, I like the Chucky movies when I was a kid. Like I always thought they were fun. So I was like, it's kind of like seeing an old friend again, but one who wants to kill you because he's a doll. Yeah. But yeah, it was okay. It was almost like it was a solid like C for Chucky. I'm done. I'm sorry.
C for Chucky.
Yeah, I didn't mean for it to go that direction, but it did. It did.
Yeah. I am currently reading the third book in the Incarnate accounts. We interviewed Justin Schulke a few weeks back, and that sort of prompted me to like jump back in because I had stopped after book 2, and I was like, oh, book 3 is already available. Book 4 has since come out. And I was like, and I'm really enjoying it. It's fun. It is fun sometimes to read a book that I'm not narrating.
Yeah.
Or that I'm not reading for a podcast.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to, man, I went to Paper Crane and bought like 4 books, and they've just been patiently waiting for me to get my shit together and read it. But like I have the newest Bone Dust and Bookshops like waiting for me. The newest Power Unbound is chilling. Like I just need to pick them up, but they're there.
They're there.
They're there. And I know both of those are going to be cozy, fun. Like, well, I mean, the Bone Dust one isn't going to have any romance, I don't think, but that one's just like cozy fantasy at its best. And then the other one's a great romance that's just like, hi, like you should be reading me. So maybe I'll do that this weekend, but we'll see.
At least start.
Yeah.
See if it can grab your attention. I find I'm not always in the mood to be a reader.
Yeah.
But like when it happens, it's like, oh, it's so nice to just return to just like reading a book.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Maybe I do audio all the time, still all the time, but it's so nice to like just read a book.
I think where I'm maybe shooting myself in the foot is I haven't tried either one of those audios. Like that's probably what I need to do is I need to go get one of those in audio so I can play my stupid game and listen to a book, and because I could do both things for that book, because that game is like low mental energy, so I can listen to a book and just beat up things and not care. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's what I should do.
Yeah,
that's the plan then. I'll pick one of those for Saturday.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Very good. I also, this weekend, went to see a play that my friend was in.
Oh, yeah.
So I just want to put in a plug for things that make you happy. Going to see friends in things that they're passionate about.
Yes. Yes. A+.
Whether that's a play or if they're musicians, if they're playing somewhere, or if they are storytellers telling stories. Or, I mean, hell, even if they're like people who do sports.
Yeah, dude.
If you really love that person and they love doing the sports and you think that could make you happy, go do that too. Go support a friend.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I've got a good friend of mine who does art. Like she does some of these local markets and stuff, and she sells her prints. And I just love going and watching her talk to people, and people like looking at her art and buying it and stuff. Yeah. Like I love seeing that and supporting that. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else making you happy?
I mean, getting to see you every day. Oh, you're like, shut up.
No, we don't do that here.
Yeah, I know.
We don't do sentimentality.
No, we see each other every day, so it's fine.
So those are just a few things that are making us happy. What's making you happy right now? Let us know in the comments or send us a message. This week, we are talking to author Sarah Wallace. Sarah Wallace lives in Florida with their cat, more books than they have time to read, a large collection of classic movies, and an apartment full of plants that are surviving against all odds. We got to talk to them about Meddle Mend series, as well as their upcoming collaboration with author S.O. Callahan. This is our interview with author Sarah Wallace. Welcome to the Hoof and Fang podcast, author Sarah Wallace. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're very excited to chat with you. So we have some deep dives to do about the individual books, but can you start just by telling us, like, what's your story? What's your origin story? How'd you get started in life and as an author?
All right, my origin story. So I am from Florida. Born and raised in Central Florida, and
we won't hold that against you.
I know, I'm so sorry. And I always wanted to be a writer ever since I was a little kid, but I spent a few years not writing in my late 20s, early 30s, and then I used to work at Disney. I worked at Disney for about 15 years, and
awesome.
yeah. And while I was working there, they had this program that they launched called Aspire, where you were able to get a free education. And so I pursued a graduate degree, and it was the exact graduate degree I had wanted but couldn't afford. And it was a graduate degree in creative writing. And it had been like 7 or 8 years since I had really written when I started that degree. And I had like a month of panic that like I didn't actually have any stories left in me. And thankfully I had the external motivation of I had to write a story for class. And I was at the time reading a lot of queer romance and also a lot of Georgette Heyer. So I combined the two things that I was reading to create the stories that I really wanted to read, which was queer Regency romance with a fantasy element, because I always like adding fantasy elements to my stories. So that
You'll
was
hear no complaints from us.
Yeah. It's like our favorite things.
Yeah.
It always ends up in there. I don't know how. So
yeah, right?
That's how I started my Meddle Mend series, was out of a panic in grad school, and worked out really well.
Awesome.
That's really cool.
How long ago was that? Like, how long did you start that series?
I started that series, I think, in 2019.
Okay.
Nice.
Back in the good old days.
Yeah, before
Back
everything went crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Pre-pandemic,
before times.
yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask, what job did you do at Disney?
Yeah, I did a few jobs. My first job was working in the attractions side. So I worked at Disney's Hollywood Studios. I worked at the Voyage of the Little Mermaid show, live show with the Little Mermaid.
Fun.
Yeah, it was a very interesting job. And I worked at Toy Story Midway Mania when it was like the most popular ride at Walt Disney World. And so I worked in attractions for like 7 or 8 years. And then I worked called backstage in like an office-y type of job. And then I moved we were keeping track of where, like, how the attractions were running in terms of breaks, and, you know, letting people know like, hey, that you're 10 minutes behind on breaks, you need to jump in or whatever. And then I did 5 years as a scheduler. And then I left that job as a scheduler to become a scheduler at another company. So.
Got it. You know,
That's
you
awesome.
forget that there are like so many jobs at a place like that that are not the out front, like people in costumes jobs. Although I was really hoping you were going to say you were a person in costume.
I know, I'm so sorry. I am not tall enough to be a princess, and I think I'm a little too tall to be like a person in like the fur costumes. I might be the right height for that, but I never actually applied for any of those
never
jobs.
got that chance.
Yeah.
No,
I feel like
okay.
that would be a hard job too. So.
It is. My friend Amanda from college was one of the characters.
Yeah.
She was Ariel, and this is a real kick in the pants because like she got to be Ariel, but they were also like, you're going to be an ugly stepsister.
Oh, that's so mean.
But those guys, I think the stepsisters have the most fun because they can be
She loved it.
rude and annoying, and I feel like it'd be more fun than being a princess because you kind of have to be perfect when you're a princess.
Well, especially Ariel, because she, like, I saw so many pictures and she's just kind of like perched on a shell and like,
oh yeah, you wouldn't
talking to kids. And I'm like, God, that seems terrible. But walking around being mean to people, that sounds great.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's a good job.
That sounds amazing. That sounds like what I do every day. I just don't wear costume.
Yeah, I was supposed to say, you just walk around the office being me.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So let's talk Regency, fantasy, gay romance.
Yes, that's a lot of amazing things. Like so many of my favorite boxes have been checked, like going down the list. I was like, yep, love all of those things. That's awesome.
We've sort of touched on this before in other interviews, but like it must be somewhat difficult to approach a queer romance set in a time when obviously something like that in the real world could not have been open, you know? So like, how did you navigate that as a writer?
So early on, I decided to make it a queer normative world. And since it's a fantasy series, that kind of gives permission for a lot of things. And something I've kind of have a pet peeve, not like in a broad sweep or anything, but as a pet peeve of mine when there are historical fantasy stories that are like rigid in that specific historical accuracy. And I'm like, you can have vampires, but it's bad if you're gay. Like, why do we draw the line there? So,
like that corset didn't have enough buttons.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And so, for me, I wanted, basically with Meddle Mend in particular, I really wanted to have a low stakes historical romance because I feel like queer people don't get that with historical romance. They usually get if we're caught, we might go to prison sort of a thing. Yeah. And I really wanted a soft, like, the stakes are, I have to marry well, or the stakes are, I think this person's in love with me, but he's a duke. So like, I wanted those sorts of like kind of frothy stakes that we get in historical romance, but with queer characters instead. And so I made the whole thing queer normative. So in both the Meddle Mend series and the series I'm co-writing with S.O. Callahan, it's like same-sex marriages are completely legalized, and trans and non-binary people are legally recognized. So the queerness is never a conflict in the stories. It's always anything else that you might have in a romance, historical romance. Those are the conflicts. So
cool.
Yeah, I think I'm aligned with you because like I love that those stories exist where those people have to push back against the laws and are still living their authentic selves in these very rigid societies. But when you get to just delve into a world where that's just established where it's fine, then you get to really immerse into the juicy drama of just a normal romance. So you can have all the drama and the ridiculousness of falling in love with the Duke and, those wonderful tropes that go into those historical romances where it's not meant to be, but not because they're gay, because they're in different stations in life. Like who doesn't love that kind of story? I love those stories.
Right.
So
exactly.
I love the more like, it shouldn't matter. They're gay. I want to know about how they're going to navigate this social structure. Like that's fun.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Like,
which spoon do I use when?
Yeah, that's more of a faux pas. They wore the wrong outfit to a summer social and now they're like blacklisted, but they don't care that they're gay. Like that's the kind of shit I like.
Yeah, we were caught in a garden, and it's not that we're going to be shunned because we're two men. We're shunned because, like, we now have to get married because we were stuck in a place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I love that.
And I think that there's a lot of value in the stories of the stakes are the realistic stakes. Like, I think that has a lot of value, too, because we need to show queer people finding joy in constricting societies. But I also think there's also value in these sorts of low stakes fantasy worlds where we get to see queer people just having joy and just having fluffy conflicts is, I think, also very valuable and important. So
it's about balance. And I was just about to say, like, I think I actually have an easier time accepting a queer normative world in a fantasy Regency past setting than I do when I see it in contemporary romance. Because there is the part of me that's like, well, this is lovely. It is fun. Like, it's fun. It's a nice escape. But I was like, but let's not give the impression that this is what the world is right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Right.
And there's no danger of that if we're like pretending we're in the 1600s and just having fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Being gay in the past.
Yeah,
you know?
being gay in the past. I like that.
You know?
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, and I'll admit, like, sometimes I bump up against that in queer romances that are contemporary. I'm like, this is.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, really? They're just walking down the street holding hands in this small town in Idaho?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, good for them.
Coolest town on earth, I guess. Shit.
Right. You know? But again, it's good. It's good to have balance and to see both sides of that.
Yeah, for sure.
I would love to hear just more about like the world, like how fantasy shows itself in your world. Like, what are the elements that you include in Meddle Mend? We'll start there, and then we'll talk about the next series.
Meddle Mend. My favorite type of magic system is like a scientific sort of magic system. So I really love when there are measurements and calculations, and they have to use specific ingredients, and they have to weigh them, and like that's my favorite kind of magic system, as if it's basically another type of science. So Meddle Mend is very scientific magic. It's also kind of because it's a scientific sort of magic, it's almost like an additional technology. So it's present in all of the books, but it's not necessarily a huge. I try to make magic a core part of the plot's conflict, so that like if I took out the magic, it would change the story. So I tried to make sure that was the case, but it's also sort of a background piece of the world. Like it just happens to have magic.
It's a matter of fact. Sometimes it's like turning the lights on.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I prefer to have magic. Usually everyone can do it. Some people are better skilled at it than others, but it's really just like some people are better skilled at music than others. It just exists. So that's how I build my system for Meddle Mend.
Cool.
Yeah, I love the idea of a science ground magic, because you don't see it very often. Like I think I've seen it like similar in some more, definitely not in romance, but like in more fantasy novels and stuff. Like I know the King Killer's Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. His magic system is kind of more like based in like a science approach, in a like earth science almost kind of way, and like physics. It's very, very specific, and I thought that was so interesting. But like you don't really see, magic is always this fantastical thing. You don't really get to know the sciencey roots behind it, which is where my brain lives. Like I'm such a science person. So like the idea of being able to quantify it in a way where you could, like, there's, like you said, like math and stuff, like that's so interesting. Yeah. So when you say that they have to do like,
that's what magic was missing, math.
Well, listen. Cool.
Let me be the artsy fartsy actor over here and be like, oh great, math.
That's so cool though. Like I'm like my background is earth science and shit. So like I'm all about this. But like, so when you say like measurements and stuff, so is it like potion and alchemy kind of vibe, or
sometimes more like so basically the concept is that like everything has magic in it, and everything has like a magical property in that like everything is a different type of magical personality. So if you take a feather, or if you take like dried rose petals, those will have two different magical properties. So they'll be used in a different way for a magic spell. And so the characters in the books have to kind of memorize what the different magical properties are for different items, so they can use them, and they can do substitutions. So it's kind of like a cooking sort of thing, where like you could take out this one ingredient and put a different ingredient in, and it's going to have a similar taste to it. But it might be slightly more powerful if you use this. And if you're doing it on a larger scale, you have to measure it properly so you can scale it up. It's usually like a written out thing. So they usually do it in like chalk, and write out sigils. And then they usually like do some sort of like hand gesture or incantation to like activate the magic. And it essentially, the idea is that they're transferring some of their magical power onto the magical items to get the magic to do what they want it to do out of the magical items they've put together.
That's cool. I
And
love that.
how do you keep track of all of that?
Yeah, you've got to have like a spreadsheet or something. Like I was just thinking, I was like, oh my God, I'd forget the moment I wrote it down. I'd be like, I don't remember what
I mean, you have to
rose petals
like
do.
create your own grimoire to keep track
Yeah.
of all that stuff. Right?
I'm not as detailed as I should be, so I did buy.
So you have a good editor then.
Yeah, I'm pretty vague on some of the stuff. I did recently buy like a whole bunch of like florography type of books so I could start being more specific in it. I also use a lot of like made up plants, which help a lot because no one can, fact check me on dragon's breath because it's not a real thing. So like I can say, oh, these are the properties of dragon's breath. It can heat everything up. People are like, great, perfect.
Mhm.
So like
Love
they don't know. But so I do that sort of thing. I'm not always super specific. Like I do try to be mindful of like what ingredients they might have. So I'm trying to think of a good one that I did was like a quieting spell in one of the books where it's like I think there's like cotton and fabric and like a stopwatch so they can like control the time of the spell. But it's mostly things that I was like, okay, this would sort of muffle sound is like broadcloth and cotton and I don't know what else. Like anytime there's something that's like adding lightness to it, like flotation or whatever, there's always a feather involved. So that sort of thing is usually what I do. It's more scientific in that the characters are scientific. I'm not very scientifically minded.
Hey, that's fair.
Well, but if it follows a logical path,
Yeah, exactly.
then,
It has its own like hard rules as far as like you understand that in this universe things have magical properties. So when they toss it all together and enchant it, you're like, oh, that makes sense because the rules are established. So
like dragon's breath makes something warm.
Yeah, I love that.
Feathers make things fly.
Yeah,
like
exactly. It's
yeah.
easy to digest. I love that.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. What about the romance part of it? So there's 4 books. Is it an anthology series where it's a different couple every book, or are we following the same couple?
So it's a different couple every book. They're not all romances. The second and third books aren't romances.
Here we go.
So the first book is a romance. It's a romance between 2 men. It's the main character is demisexual. It's also all epistolary, so the whole thing is told via letters.
That's so cool.
Very difficult to do, but it was very fun. And the second book is a completely new character who meets. She like saves the life of the love interest from the first book at the very beginning of the book, and so it's about how that good deed kind of changes the trajectory of her life. And she's aromantic, so there's a platonic relationship, but there's no romance in that one. And the third book's about that main character's best friend. And it's about found family, and there is like a romantic subplot in there, but it's not a romance. They don't end up together. You just know that they're probably going to eventually end up together.
Cool.
And the fourth book is also a romance. It's also epistolary. It's told through journal entries rather than letters. It's the younger brother of the main character from book 1. And it's another gay romance. Main character is gay. The love interest is a trans man. And I'm planning to have 8 books total for the series. And the other 4 will all be romances. 5th book is coming out hopefully in June. And that's going to be the first male-female romance in the series, also queer.
Just kidding.
Queer.
You guys are allowed.
So that's the plan. 6th book is going to be a continuation of the couple from book 3. Give them their happily ever after finally.
Nice.
7th and 8th books haven't been written yet, but I know what they're going to be about, and I just haven't gotten to them yet. So
Awesome.
That's really cool. It kind of runs the gambit of like different relationship types and stuff and representation, which is fantastic.
Thank you. That was my focus with this series. Like I do try to be mindful of representation, and that I try to have like body diversity, and I try to have diversity in terms of representation as much as possible for like queer spectrum. But so that's been sort of how I've approached it a lot. Like book 5, it was a male-female romance, and I was like, how can I make this queer as possible? So like the female main character is demi-romantic, the male main character is pansexual, and so that one's queer in that way. So I don't know. I tried to do as much representation as possible so that hopefully everybody can find themselves in this world in some way.
So I know you have a new series or a new book that's coming out, The Breeze Spells and Bridegrooms, which I love the cover of that so much. Like, it's so cute. It was one of those, like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I love it. Like, I immediately love both characters. And like, you could just tell their personalities from first glance. Like, I was like, oh, yep, that's cute. Mm-hmm. Cute as hell. Love it.
Yes.
So, and that, is that another magical? Yeah, it's so good.
Yes.
Is that another magical universe?
Yes. So that one is both S.O. Callahan and my first character on the cover book. So we're both, it's very fun to have people like, oh, this is so cute. Like, we never had that before. But it is also a fantasy. It's very similar to my Meddle Mend world. It was honestly more difficult to try to make it distinct from Meddle Mend than anything because I wanted to make sure it wasn't too similar. But in this world, Fae exist as well as humans, which Shannon S.O. Callahan loves writing Fae stories, so that was kind of an early decision to make it a Fae and human population. And so we have 2 separate magic systems in book 1. So the Fae have a very nature-based magic that is like in them, and they can control different aspects of nature just innately. And then the human magic system is, again, similar to Meddle Mend. I tried to make it different. So that one is done on paper, and they draw it out with pencils. And again, they have to do like, it's not incantations as much. It's more like sigils and calculations again, because I really like that. And the human magic is more of like, they break down ingredients into powders and liquids and that sort of thing. And the Fae hate it because for them it feels kind of like aggravating because they can feel the magic in these ingredients, but they've been broken down. So it feels like discordant to them. So that's some of the friction that the 2 main characters have, is that one of them uses all these powders and liquids and everything, and the other one's like, why are you doing that? Why can't you just use a leaf and do that for your magic?
Yeah, why do you have to break it down that much or destroy it basically in their eyes?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And the idea is that like it's so powerful in its natural form that it's too powerful for humans to use, so they have to do that so they can control it. So it's a lot of the conflict in book 1 is them trying to figure out a compromise that can work for both of them and both of their magic. So that's that magic system.
Fun.
Yeah, that's
and
really
I also,
cool.
I mean, do this, but like one of the characters is like short and a little pudgy on the cover, and I'm like,
yeah, I love that.
Yes.
Bring it. And it is. It's a super cute cover. I'm always curious, like how authors decide it's time to team up. So how did you and S.O. Callahan find your way to each other and decide, yeah, you know what my life needs? More coordination with another human being.
It's actually very cool and kind of a weird story. So I posted on Instagram, like a tweet. I posted to my stories that was like, historical romance authors. What I really want is a book about 2 rivals who fight each other via a gossip column and are always sending damning stories about each other in a gossip column, and the writer gets back at them by announcing they're engaged, and then they have to go with it. And I posted that to my stories and said, this would be so fun to write. And S.O. Callahan responded and said, do you want to write this together? And to give some like background, we had known each other for a few months at that point. We were acquaintances, we were friends-ish in the way that you're kind of friends with a lot of people on Instagram where you like each other's stuff, you share each other's stuff in common, but you're not like BFFs. And I had read her book, Fella Enchanted, which I recommend. And that book is a queer, cozy fantasy, gay romance with fae set in late 1800s Ireland. And my books are queer, cozy fantasy set in early 1800s England. So it was like, these are really goes together. So it was when she sent that text, I'm like, this is probably the best author I could possibly think of to team up with, because we already write such similar settings, and such similar stories. So I immediately responded with like, if you're serious, yes. So it's been better than either of us could have expected. We both have agreed that we actually like co-writing more than we like solo writing now, because it's been so fun to write together that we are absolutely just addicted to writing with each other. It's really fun.
That's like the best case scenario. Like I love that. And I think I'm gonna try that. Like I'm just gonna like come up with a very specific idea and just do a call to action and be like, just like cast the net and see if because like one of the things I super want to do is I eventually want to find somebody who I gel that much with so I can do like a cool co-writing thing. And I've yet to snag anyone. So I'm going to try your technique.
I don't know that saying snag is going to help anybody.
So I'm going to wrestle them down and make them right with me. But yeah.
I've yet to cajole them into being a partner. Yeah. Maybe it's just the right idea.
Yeah, maybe. You know? Yeah, I just have to come up with something.
Time to start throwing shit on your Instagram stories and see who bites.
Exactly. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
Yep.
You never know. Well,
hints to everyone listening.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah, that's our hot writing tip from this interview is like, if you've got a good idea, cast the net. Maybe you'll find like an awesome co-writer.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I mean, the fun thing about this is the day this podcast comes out, Breeze Spells and Bridegrooms comes out the next day.
Fun.
So January 27th, you are able to, where are they able to get the book and what formats can they get it in?
They can get it in all formats and all platforms. Currently, we can't. We're publishing through Drafted Digital for ebook and paperback, and for some reason, Drafted Digital doesn't allow pre-order capabilities for Kindle, so you can't pre-order the ebook on Amazon currently. And we were a little late in getting the audiobook uploaded to Findaway Voices, so I think Audible, it's still not available for pre-order on Audible yet. So Audible might be a bit of a delay, but they can get it on audiobook on like Chirp and I forget the other one that they get it, but you can get it on several different audiobook sites. You can get it on paperback pretty much everywhere, and you can get it on ebook everywhere. And hopefully, when you're listening to this tomorrow, you'll be able to get it on Amazon as well. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Strongly endorse buying audiobooks in places besides Audible. It's not the only market.
It's not.
It's not it. It's not the only one.
Oh, I think Libro FM was the other one. I think Chirp and Libro FM.
That's the best one to use.
There you go.
Listen, if folks out there don't know about Libro FM, it is the exact same price as Audible per month. Mm-hmm. You get the exact same credit. And a lot of the same options for books. In the indie market, you might lose out some because Amazon has a stranglehold on their ACX distribution platform. But Libro FM, if you have a membership through them, you can choose a local bookstore, and part of the sale of that audiobook goes to your local bookstore. It's a way to support local bookstores. So Libro FM, if you're not using it, I will admit I have a membership to both. To Audible for the things that I can only get there. But otherwise I use my Libro FM to get a lot of the things that are available everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
it's cool.
One thing I've discovered too is that if you have a local bookstore, sometimes if you go there, they'll have a QR code you can scan for Libro FM, and it will take you directly to that bookstore's Libro FM site so that you can actively support that local bookstore. And it's an easy way to do it. So if you're already going to the bookstore, then you can add a virtual way to support them too.
Exactly. And if your local bookstore isn't already connected to Libro FM, tell them about it. All they have to do is go apply. And then they can also be seeing a little bit of kickback on audiobook purchases through Libro FM. So was not planning on having a Libro FM commercial as a part of this episode, but you know what?
Yeah, we're not sponsored.
I do love them, and I hope more people will use them either instead of or in addition to Audible.
Yeah.
Because the more audiobooks, the better. That's what I have to say.
And I'm also going to give a plug to Kobo Plus, which is another good subscription service that has an audio option. My books are all on Kobo Plus as ebook and audiobook. And Kobo Plus is a really nice option for indie authors who are wide. are not exclusive to Amazon, because you can offer your books on a subscription-based service like Kindle Unlimited, only Kobo does not require exclusivity. So you can do Kobo Plus and also Google or Barnes & Noble and Amazon. So that was another really good option for indie authors.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. This was, it was lovely to learn more about your books and your writing and the worlds that you've created. And I hope that our listeners are readying their little buying thumbs. That doesn't make any sense.
They're readying their like clicky fingers.
Right. I was like, it doesn't make any noise to buy things on a phone. So it's like,
it could if you have sound on an Apple phone.
Get your little hot fingers ready to go press buy on Breeze Spells and Bridegrooms, available on January 27th, which is tomorrow if you're listening to this episode the day it comes out.
Yes.
And if you're not listening to this episode the day it comes out, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah, how dare you?
Jeez.
Get with it.
No. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us, Sarah. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
So as we mentioned in the interview, Sarah and S.O. Callahan's book, Breeze, Spells, and Bridegrooms, comes out tomorrow, January 27th. If you are listening to this episode the day it comes out, make sure to check that out. A new collaboration, a new series with an adorable cover.
Love that cover so much.
Yes. And you can follow Sarah on social media. Links are in the show notes. Our socials are also in the show notes. So if you aren't already, please follow the Hoof and Fang podcast as well as our individual socials so we can connect. I also encourage you to check out our website where you can find more information about us, links to our Patreon, our online store, and our Hoof and Fang audio program, where we are still accepting submissions to have your queer book turned into a queer audiobook. So don't be afraid to submit.
Yes.
Awesome. We will talk to you guys next week.
See you then.
Bye-bye.